Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. I am so delightful and so thankful, especially in this hour. It's a moment granted, I could say, and it's an opening and in a space, in our time and our era. And I believe that history will absolutely begin to foretell that which we see happening in our time, especially now, because as I always say that in every generation there is, I would say, meaning moreover a kind of an offering of, I mean, it's kind of leadership. So I'm excited and I'm so delightful on this platform and on this very channel to have, a leader, meaning which I believe that as we also stand in prayer and believe in God, and also being myself being in the pattern of leadership, but when I see what we have raised and what God has actually now brought forth, I get to be so not even excited or emotional, but I become even more hopeful because I know that South Africa has meaning a bright and moreover of a desirable future. So now in the studio, I don't just have a man that might need even my introduction, but I have and moreover a son of the soil, a son of glory, a man that stood out and brought difference. And when we talk opposition, but now for now he is bringing difference in regards to the unification, meaning of the citizenry of this nation. And I wanna thank you for coming on board, Honorable Mmusi Maimane, and is about to pour his heart. And I'm just going to ask you, South Africa, and all over in the diaspora, as we are in the process right now, the preparing, this is the preparation. It's a road that we all are going to walk towards, the elections, local government elections that are coming this year, whether it could be in October or November the 3rd, but we believe that something would happen constitutionally, and so we can go to the polls and begin to determine meaning the fate of the people, of running our local government and over municipalities, so we can deal with corruptibility kind of action and acts and begin to impart the incorruptible seed. So if one would say South Africa, is in a bankruptcy of leadership, you might be talking out of your will. But tonight we all have to witness a voice, a man, I would say that now who's charismatic, but not even now announcing it and so forth. But now you could see how he does things, having a heart, for the people of South Africa. So now I want to welcome you all, and for you, also to now, just participate on our commentary and let us welcome, a leader of one South Africa movement, his, Honorable Mmusi Maimane. And I would love it that we all, welcome, in the leadership in South Africa, in all communities and in all provinces, in all regions. Now, you see, now we're not writing this down. We're talking from the heart. This is the presidential talk. We will be sharing and shedding some of the importance, pertaining, in the things that are connected to this nation, and moreover, even South Africa and Africa, the national interests that needs to be put, into a plane and be inscribed in the hearts of the people. So thank you so much for coming through, for tuning in. Touch your neighbor, touch somebody, and as you're having your coffees, then your Milos and your teas and your waters, please just invite someone. Let us get into this, because on the very road, and especially the road of media, it's a lonely road. Hence, we are opening up for all political parties emerging and all those who are actually new entrant. But now, the men that I'm about to now receive, need no, a kind of welcome from myself, and I would just open up to give him time to talk because of some other commitments that are there. And let me just go through it right now. And as we welcome leader of One South Africa movement, our leader, Mr. Mmusi Maimane. Honorable, welcome, 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 Honorable. Thanks so much for coming through,
Hmm.
and we are delighted for your presence. And I believe that you have much in your heart to share But we're gonna make this to be more desirable so that even those who have not had politics before, they will love to hear the polity and the in the organizational kind of procedures that we're gonna bring on board. And thank you so much for coming through, sir. If you would just open up your heart, and I believe South Africa is receiving you now. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bishop, let me, first of all, Dr. Langa, let me thank you so much for having me on here on this platform. Let me also just affirm that from time to time in your journey in life, God divinely connects you with people that after you've met them, you say, God, what are you up to here? And so to end up on this platform, I just want to say thank you. I want to honor you. I want to honor you for how you carry our nation. I want to honor you for just in the way that you've been such an encouragement to me. I want to tell you, to anyone who's listening, that even just in the interactions we've had, I have really felt there are some people who talk, and then there are some people whose words carry power and punch. And Dr. Langa, thank you for just having words that speak beyond just intellect. Okay, we can have an intellectual conversation and nothing changes. There's something
That's
about a
right.
conversation that moves beyond the intellect that impacts people, and I am conscious enough of just so thank you. I wanted to just honor you and thank you for that, and thank you for just inviting us on this talk. You know, it's a we've walked we're walking a journey. We're walking a journey of humility and walking a journey where we are saying to ourselves, I didn't plan on saying this, but I think I'll say it up front. When I started this year, for me, the the scripture that almost sets the tone for this year is, "Can a nation be born in a day?" And I think Isaiah 66 puts that in context. So that what authors me, that's what directs me this year, is, can a nation be born in a day? And I think the answer is yes. And I certainly believe that even in these interactions, there's someone sitting elsewhere contemplating their future about whether to immigrate or to stay in South Africa, their future about where this nation is going. And I almost feel to reaffirm that it's a time never to lose hope, because a nation can be born in a day. And we are part of a history that was co-authored since time memorial, a history that says from time to time nations go through change. No one would have thought, if you were living in the 1800s, no one would have thought entering into the 1900s that even, and I know for many people might say, why are you citing the ANC, etc., in 1912, in looking at generations of people who have fought? But these were men and women who were in the Methodist Church contemplating whether non-racialism is possible or not. And they fought it. I don't want to, I can debate today what's happened, but they did something. I can remember from reverence, like people like Bears Nodia, who on the other side stood up and said, non-racialism is the only future. We've got to build one. That's always been the destiny and the journey. It's people who carried us in the 80s and 90s. And all we get to do today is saying, if God, you've been faithful since the 1900s, you will be faithful again today. And there's a big part of me that says what we are doing is carrying on just a baton from so many who have taken us one step forward, next step forward. They've been musicians, artists, preachers, leaders, business people. And we get to stand on their shoulders as hopefully one day another generation of leaders will do likewise. And if we can be willing to be brave enough to say, can a nation be born in one day? I think it can. So thank you for having us.
You're welcome, by me warmly. Thank you so much, Honorable Maimane. You know what? I have, I would say, maybe multiple of questions, and that which I believe that you could answer in the next 30 or 45 minutes. But I would love us to have a conversation, and even how you have actually now, began and outlined um, uh, politics, where they're coming from, in the ancient times. So we're enacting that to say, as we talking, can a nation be born in one day? And looking at that, in every generation, there's gonna be, a leadership that has to rise or emerge, and it is in our interest that we, as also the citizens, of this nation, to support such leadership come forth. But it looked like, especially in South Africa, because as I said earlier, that we hope for that president. We longed for such, and we longed for freedom. And now we got all of that, and it looks like we are doomed, and it looks like there's no future. And moreover, when you look around, even how people will go in terms of voting, it looks like because of us being loyal. So because what I look at, when I look at at South Africans, moreover in a bigger picture and spectrum, South Africans are loyal people. And what I want to ask is that, with a very loyalty to what we thought it could be, future of a national, unity government, which, it's democratic in its processes. And but now, when you look at how things are now, it doesn't happen that way. We still have locations that have no infrastructure. We still have many localities that are struggling economically. People, through the integration, even through the integration of democracy, we saw that now, meaning production in terms of industrial, I could say, manufacturing is been dismantled in our nation, and we started sourcing, and we started giving away, meaning power in what we used to have. So, what is it that is of a vision that you would say, meaning a leader, so honorable like Mr. Maimani has a vision that you say you have? I love what you've just outlined. Can South Africa be born, or a nation be born in one day? But what would be a vision, moreover, that you would outline,
Yeah.
that South Africans should know that you are having in your heart?
Well, you know, more than anything, for me, in simple terms, I let me tell you what is possible and what we tell you why I think we need to do that. One, I maintain that it is for us very possible to have unemployment at 15%. At this point in time, it's at 43% on an expanded definition. It is possible that when we talk about one South Africa, the vision I hold is that men and women, regardless of the color of their skin, can prosper and live together peacefully. Prosperity must require in and of itself that people have a secure, happy environment upon which they can exercise their natural gifts. And peace requires that ultimately everybody is included. So,
Mm,
built into one South Africa is the notion that says that for South Africa to be a sustainable nation, it needs to be one. And the problem we're trying to solve, because often people say to me, every vision is in some ways a solution to a particular problem. The
mm,
problem we're trying to solve is that many would define our country as you have South Africa A and South Africa B. If you are in South Africa A, you have money, and if you are in South Africa B, you don't have money. And in simple terms, 55% of the people in this country are living below the upper poverty line. They earn less than 1,180. That's the picture of our country. Half of our people are poor. Sometimes I think we forget that. Secondly, we're living in a country upon which others would say there's a South Africa that is black and a South Africa that is white. And I'm not nervous to speak about race. When people say to me, why do you raise race? Surely you should be non racial. I say, by virtue of God's design, He saw it fit to give me my pigmentation, which is darker, and He gave my wife pigmentation, which is lighter. It doesn't make us less human beings, it just makes us
mm,
diverse. But as a function of our
mm,
history, there's a caste system that says I'm less than because of the color of my skin. And for her, she is a slave in this country because of her gender. which is many
mm,
women in this country, let's be honest, are slaves. They are hunted. That's why their rights, the face of poverty is 40% is female. Gender-based violence, we live in a society that takes advantage of women mainly because they are slaves in our nation. Let's be honest with
mm,
ourselves. Thirdly, I think we're really trying to say when others say there's a South Africa that is urban and a South Africa that is rural. If you speak to an urban person, when they're trying to describe what's happening in a rural community, it's like they're talking about a different South Africa. When you and I open a tap and water comes out, there are others still today having to chase off cattle just to get to water because they share the same water point. So let's understand that when the vision says we want to build one South Africa, it isn't just a question of just saying, let us hold hands. It is a question of saying, can we truly build a South Africa upon which the chances of any child in this country are not determined by their race, by their community, and ultimately by their gender? Because when we do that, we are truly offering a situation upon which we can say we can then build one South Africa. And I would argue the case that we will never have peace in this country until we pursue that, until we say we must think together rather than think apart. I find myself in so many different contexts. When you sit in what I call South Africa A loosely, which is your industry, all of that, there are people even during a time of COVID who have made billions, but for them, they've never thought just over the hill. There are people who, when you say to them, go into lockdown and self isolation, they will ask you the question, where do I self isolate in a shack? You must understand
mm,
the very South Africas we live in. And it's a historic problem.
mm,
It was bequeathed to us through a colonial era, it was bequeathed to us through an apartheid era, and I'm afraid today it's been bequeathed to us by a government of a nationalist government that now we are fragmenting as a society. So my
mm,
vision is born out of addressing that question. How do we build one? And I would argue we have to bring reformation in three areas. The first is political. No one can deny the fact that we have a political problem in this country. That's why I want to fight harder for direct elections. I want power back to the people because people must be able to say the political leadership works for us, not us for them. You don't no one is doing you a favor by doing what they have to do. They are actually your servants, which
mm,
you know
mm,
biblically can speak to the notion of servant leadership, but that's fundamental to what it is. Secondly, we need a social reformation. It cannot be, and I was thinking about this and it pains me. Sometimes I feel like we must speak even as Africans and begin to ask ourselves the question, are we okay with more than half the children born in this country, more than half born in this country, are not only hungry, but they are children born to single parents? That's a problem. That tells me that the very essence of society, the fundamental building block of society, is being fragmented. So before we can even blame anyone, we must sit back and say, is it okay that our society is broken? Is it okay that our families are not working? Is it okay that in my street, in Dobsonville, Mutle Street, there is not a single female teenager that I know that is without a child today,
mm, mm,
outside of marriage? So let's be honest about the kind of families we are producing. And then when you see other social ills, whether those are alcohol, drug abuse, compound those with poverty, we have a conversation to have about society. And then lastly, I think we must be able to say to ourselves, can we reform our economy? Our economy at the moment is concentrated, it works for a few people. And to be honest with you, I've had to confront myself and say to myself, if you were living in Egypt under Pharaoh, you wouldn't just simply say what Egypt needs is growth or GDP growth. You could say maybe Egypt had very good GDP growth, actually. It was productive, it was doing well. But no one can deny the underlying problem, which was you had a slave and cheap labor. So now, today, when we
yeah.
look at reformation, We have to say to ourselves, when we say let's talk about true freedom, our economy requires not only growth, it needs a quality of growth that says, can it be that the community of Mamelodi can start enterprises and businesses where people can be able to employ people? Can it be that we deconcentrate our economy, that we don't only have 4 insurance companies, but we have 10, and they are owned by a diversity of South Africans? Can it be that today it cannot be that income inequality between the richest CEO and the poorest worker is over 300%? I mean, place that in context. So, my urgency here now is saying when we talk about economic reform, it's not just including people into that, but it's assisting people to prosper so that one day we don't have debates about minimum wages if they're a swear word, but we have debates that say we actually want to pay our people well so that they can be included in our economy, prosper, and live peace. So to me, that's why when I talk about the vision to build a South Africa upon which men and women can prosper together and live together peacefully, I don't just use those words because they are catchy and they're clever, but truly, it's words that say, one day, if you are sitting somewhere and you have a medical aid, you need to stop and say, yeah, fine, I have a medical aid, but it's not going to mean anything unless the person who's without a medical aid, who's dependent on the state, also gets health care. Because in a time of COVID, you can have a medical aid and I don't have one. We enter the same taxi, we're going to infect one another, medical aid or no medical aid. So let's be honest and say we need to think as one rather than as separate. So my heart yearns for this country, and I will continue to fight for a non racial country. I'll continue to work towards that. And we are going to focus. As One South Africa, we are unapologetic. I say, let's educate everybody. Let's make sure everybody can be entrepreneurs. And let's make sure our public representatives are accountable to us. Then we are truly, truly well on our way to continue in the work of building a South Africa that works for all.
Honorable, thank you so much, Jeff. I think that that is so mouthful. I just want to add, especially on my side, in terms of my advocacy. I picked up a couple of things that you spoke about of very importance, and I believe they are of national interest, especially when you touched the reforms and you came about to even when you spoke the economic reform reformation, then you touched the developments. Now, I'm advocating for that because I believe that development has to be local, you know, because as you say, that as we're building One South Africa, we need to localize it because when you nationalize any matter, you are actually now you are putting everything on one basket, like as you say. And though we are separable, and though there are so much, I mean, there are so many inequalities, but or injustices, moreover again. But we find ourselves as a nation being now, we have concluded the whole citizenry into a very basket, and moreover we call it nationalization. But now I feel like South Africa must take we need to know even if it's astray, it's not the politics that people are accustomed of. We need to localize, meaning the republic, and how so? By moreover in through developments, developing first humans or humanity or local men and local women. Remember where we come from. South Africa is a nation whereby when you look at it and detect and try to check, meaning not even statistically, but doing a thorough kind of meaning a check on exactly what are our people. I mean, what are their potentialities or functionalities, and you'll find that they are skillful. Number one, and hence we were more powerful when it comes to manufacturing and agriculture and so forth. So there was skill in South Africa, even in the apartheid regime. There was skill here. So what needed to be done was to detect on what is it to do in the process of integration, to check whether on what can we do to upskill, meaning our male or females, or meaning citizens, upskill them, reskill them, some of them, so they can have documents in order to function, in the economy, because that's very much important. Because when we talk economics, we say we don't want to talk about it as if it's on top of their heads, but we want them to be partakers. We want, I mean, the communities and the people of South Africa as the true governors, as the true government, to participate. But how so? We skill them, we upskill them, we train them, we give them knowledge, we document them. And we take it further to communities. I love what you said when you touch social, reforms. In communities, and check on, moral, regeneration. Things are going AWOL. We see on how bills have been passed in the parliament, and some of the things have been thrown, and parents, also, I would say the parents' pride has been taken away. We don't condone whether it could be corporal or punishment. We don't condone such, but we say, the parents have no longer authority into, taking heed of just maybe taking their families forward, and moreover putting certain laws in their homes. So community development will be key in regard to that, to bring the morazo and the moral generation in order to build for the future, build for a South Africa that we all are longing and yearning for. But now, moreover, you touch social. In social, bring back now, me and you, Honorable, we grew up in the South Africa where we used to do even modeling. There are certain things that I did. Yes, I was Mr. This, Mr. That, like yourself. So now, in other words, and we were there, and we were fun. We were young men. We were, active. And so forth. But now, murally. But today, our young people, they don't have such infrastructure, and that is the problem that we have. Yes, we do have such structures, but they are more professional. And for them to come in there, they might not even succeed to come through all of them. But now, how about us? We go socially and we just build culturally. We build the soccer fields, and we go back netballs, and that is something that would absolutely begin to now harness. Because you see, I hear people talking the economics, which might not be the only solution. I hear people talking the spiritual, might not be the only solution. But socially, as you touch the reforms, I was actually now provoked to now share with you, to say that is moreover, I believe that one South Africa movement is on the right track. So, but now if I have to throw this further, just to hear you more, because I don't want to talk much, because I'm enjoying to hear you talking, and you spoke in regards to developments, which I've just actually now put a word. But I want to put out of this to hear you. Now, what will, for example, one South Africa movement, meaning bring in regards to the restoration of business confidence to a level that guarantees small and medium enterprises? You spoke about, small enterprises in the local, in the locality and so forth. What will, or yes, because I'm talking about not just possibilities, but what's going to happen. What will one South Africa movement, do for the restoration and the reformation of business confidence to the levels, that it will guarantee? Because now, as I said, it's national. It only, moreover, it only supports a certain, percentage of people in terms of business upgrades. Now, is there any plan in terms of the reforms to bring small, medium, and medium enterprises, and give them a capacity, especially youth, and so that we can begin to deal away with the unemployment that you spoke about, which I believe is very much important. We can deal away with the unemployment levels, of our national average. And what is it that you could say, or you could tell South Africa in regards to that, to say, I know business, I've been through business, I've seen business people, I've seen the A and the B. But there are those who are saying, I'm a young man, I've got a vision, and I want to do this, I want to do that. And how will we be able to consolidate them if my question is being heard?
Yeah.
How can we consolidate? How can we bring them on board? And what's the plan that you might be having as one South African movement?
Sure. I mean, there are many things I can share about economic reforms. I mean, it's a passion. I'm busy with a PhD in the very subject, and I'm not trying to claim to be an expert on economics because I just understand there are a few things that we perhaps need to do that are urgent. We have any equity firm realizes that of the four businesses that you invest in, three might very well fail, and one will compensate for the three that have failed. Which means that the first starting point that South Africa needs to do is to take its research and development fund, its NYDA fund, its YES fund, and create a national venture capital fund, or what others have loosely started to refer, I call a jobs and justice fund, others call it a restoration fund, but it's effectively an investment fund that focuses on jobs and justice. And I would argue that the first thing we've got to do is once you've got that venture capital, it has to be managed by both the public sector in the sense of it has to be represented by the government. And so in my head, you need five members of the government, five members from society, and that's five business people. And a deciding vote can sit with the president
Mm,
so that there's accountability on both sides. What that fund will do is stimulate pro- businesses that because when you say to a young person, you want to start a business, they say yes. Registration is easy. I can register a business this afternoon. What's sad is that the average age of registration of new companies and on the CIPC database is over 50. So it tells me that young people are not registering new businesses.
mm,
Secondly,
mm, mm,
we must give them the capital because when you start a business, where most people become dependent on the state for the state to be able to give them money, sometimes it comes in corrupt ways. So let's say you start a business providing toilet paper to someone has to help you fund the machinery so that the factory can start, all of those things. And you often find young people just don't have that resource. What has been robbed
mm,
out of communities, particularly communities that are left out, was that financial capital. I am a child of a cashier and a factory worker. My father worked in a factory, my mother was a cashier. They never, my mother didn't work when I was in high school. When I left home, I was 17. I just finished matric. I was 16 in matric. I had to go find work so that I can finance my first degree. So there was no ways they'd be able to say, Mmusi, here's some money, go start a business. Instead, they gave me an invoice to say, when you've succeeded, please come back and pay us back for our investment. So you must understand that's the social context I come from. So so we've got to create a venture capital that helps that young person who says, I've got a business, this is what I want to do. Secondly,
mm,
we must train young people in terms of business. The training is gone. Our education system is so broken that we don't do training. So, as one is saying, we went out last year and raised capital. In fact, we ran a competition on Women's Month and said, I want 50 of the best businesses in the country for women. And the winner will not only get capital, so we'll also give them mentorship.
mm,
And through, in fact, the founder of Imperial, she said she will adjudicate the things for us so that I didn't want somebody to say, man, you chose people you know. I wanted someone who was independent. She adjudicated that. She decided on a young woman called Katleho, who runs a company that supplies sanitary towels. Through sanitary towels, we gave her investment capital into a business. Today, she's a supplier to one of the retail stores. growing her business further. So we need that capital, we need that training. And we have proposed some training mechanisms. We've partnered with people. These are things we are not waiting to do in government. We are doing right now. Thirdly,
That's right.
we say we need, in enterprise development, one of the things that you need is access to market. Because the reason why people end up selling oranges at the train station is because they don't have a market for orange juice that goes to Wimpy. So they end up sitting at the train station selling oranges to people. We have to say, fine, you've perfected selling oranges at the train station. We are going to finance a juicer. We're going to give you mentorship, but we want for Wimpy to procure orange juice from you. So now what you are doing is you are moving into the informal sector and formalizing it so that people are trading across all platforms. And so so that's what One SA is busy with. That's why I spend a lot of time when I talk about One South Africa, I connect power and potential. I've just finished a meeting with all the banks, right? Sat down with the CEO of Capitec, sat down with the leadership at APSA, sat down with the leadership at Nedbank, said now I'm waiting, FNB are next and Standard Bank, and then we are done. Investec I've already seen. Saying to them, listen guys, let's create this fund. Let's help let's give cheaper capital to people. And that's why when interest rates are low, it helps. Let's give capital to SMMEs so that we can help them gain access to market also. Stop procuring your goods just from within your own community. You can't have someone who owns a restaurant, also owns the farm that produces the food that ends up at the restaurant. No, we must create an ecosystem that says we're going to procure orange juice from this person because it's important. And we're going to
That's right.
do this because it's sustainable. So as One South Africa, we've looked at the SMME space, and now we run a directory where we help micro enterprise and say, let's help train these guys. We've got a partnership with a program called Over the Rainbow, which literally gives training from grassroots all the way to the top. And I've got an initiative called The Eight, really a number for new beginnings. And what we're saying in the new beginnings, we will continue to produce venture capital for these businesses so that more and more young people are able to participate and run businesses that really thrive. But that's just at a micro level. I mean, at a macro level, there's a lot that we've got to do in making things easier. That's the advocacy part. The advocacy part is we advocate to say, look, at a macroeconomic level, of course, we need to stabilize energy. We need to ensure that our infrastructure is good because no one can trade in the dark. When ESCOM is out, business is affected. When municipalities don't work and water is not there, roads are not working, those things do not work. So let's fix the municipalities. Let's make sure energy is on the table. Let's provide water. Let's give efficiencies so that no one has to wait for long for visas, etc. And let's allow for free flow of capital in that way in financial senses. So to me, I don't see the trickle down effect. I rather say, let's break the wall in between formal and informal and trade as one. Because when we do that, we are able to build prosperity, shared prosperity for everybody. So One SA is engaged with that. I mean, we run a school of governance. That in the school of governance, we partner business leaders with young up and coming entrepreneurs. I say, mentor them, train them, help them see that they've got a potential to do certain things.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Honorable. Now let us just launch it in the deep and just a little, where pertaining Section 15A of the Electoral Commission Act. I wanna, yes, I wanna come into that because I see that even one South Africa movement also, meaning advocates for an independent candidacy in the South African elections, whether local or national or provincial. So if I may ask, and what's your take on that, and what is the vision on that?
Yeah, it's a very important development. You know, when a constitution was signed into law in '95, the vision there said, let's give power to the people. That's why the slogan was always Amandla Ngawethu. But today, you and I
All
are
right.
watching Zondo Commission, and people are just like, they can loot and steal and no one can hold them accountable. It's embarrassing, actually, because politicians are not accountable to the people. They are accountable to their party. So what we are saying is, so through history, we then went to the Concord through the New Nation movement, fought for the rights of independence to stand, which said to people, you don't need to be part of a political party to represent people in parliament. That vote went through. That vote, the Constitutional Court gave us a game changer to say, now begin to draft laws that allow for independence to stand. But it's not just about saying, let's get individuals just to stand. It's also about saying, let's reform the electoral system so that it's constituency based, so that more and more people are voting in their constituencies. And thirdly, let's allow all lists to be open so that people can see that I'm now no longer voting for just a party, I'm voting for individual X, even if that individual ends up in a party. So, starting with that, we said to ourselves, that's important for 2024. It will give power back to the people, just like Uber. You know, Uber do not own the cars, they do not own the drivers, but the Uber driver, when he arrives, you tell the Uber driver what you want them to do, the standards are upheld, and you are the one who decides when, who goes where. I want for anyone who represents us in public to be like Uber. You can call them when you want and they will answer you. You will, the standards must be right. You can rate them all the time
Yeah,
and you can make sure that
yeah,
they're accountable to you. So that is at national level. At local government level, of course, independents are allowed to stand. But we realize that it's fine for someone to stand in a ward. They are contesting for 50% of the votes. How do you contest for 100% of the votes? And therefore, we looked at the issue of in the Electoral Act, it gives you Section 15A, which says that you can register an association that can sit at a ballot so that people can vote not only for a candidate, but for the association so that you can maximize the PR vote. And so we are now going for that local government where we are saying, I want candidates who will represent their wards, but also be able to stand on the PR vote so that people can be able to go, okay, if I'm in Mamelodi, I'm voting for the following candidates in these wards, or I'm in Atteridgeville, or I'm wherever in Swan, in Joburg, wherever. But this is the association we're going to bet. And you can use residents associations for that to be able to stand up because there again, we want power back to the people. And in fact, one of the things I want to do is to make it automatic and digital. So that, like in Uber, if you don't like your Uber driver, you keep rating them. You say 3 star, 2 star, 1 star. Eventually, somebody says, "But why is Mmusi Maimane only getting 1 star? Clearly, he must be drunk when he's driving that Uber. We are going to cancel him."
yeah,
Now, I
yeah,
want to make it possible that even in the body politic, you can keep rating. Our councillor never responds to us. They don't even live here. They don't answer. And then once you've accumulated enough votes through a system like that, the community is able to say, cumulatively, Councillor X has been getting thousands of 1 stars. This person must be removed. And we can vote together and remove the person. So what I'm saying is let's give power back to the people. And Section 15A allows us to put residents' associations on the ballot. So it's possible that maybe one day Tshwane, Joburg, Ranfontein, Mohale, Ekurhuleni, doesn't matter, can be governed by independent candidates who have residents' associations on their ballot box, who share a common vision and know if they don't deliver, the people will remove them. That's the power.
wow. Now, you see, now I want to ask if given a chance, because you are a man, an honorable man, whom has actually have been in the sittings of the parliament. You understood even the proceedings and so forth, and bills have been brought on board, and first readings, all readings were done, and you participated on such. And we find that it looks like there is an illicit kind of plan that is also against the church. When you're looking at things, and there are so many amendments when it comes to the constitution. I mean, prayer was taken out of uh, you know, the equation and so forth, and to the point that now we're facing even more that is coming against faith. And people, because of their majority or they've got a certain power, they're able to pass a bill, and obviously it just goes like that, and it's assented by the president, and we see it actually now operative and becoming law. So now I want to ask that if you were given a chance to amend a constitution or our constitution, what is it that you were going to amend? Just maybe in few sec or maybe in a minute or so, if you can give us that answer. What is it that particularly? Because people are
Yeah.
amending many things. I mean, you have an amendment of Section 25, which I'm touching it partly, but we will just maybe just run on it. What is it that
I'm, I'm, I might
Honorable
shock
Mmusi
you.
Maimane would
I,
amend?
my problem is I might shock you with some of the things I might say, because the first one is, when the drafters of the Constitution were debating in 94 or in the Condesa period about the words "a nation under God," there was a massive debate about that issue, and it was finally voted out. So our Constitution makes no reference to that. I think that's an amendment that can be included, especially in the preamble, because,
That's why.
and this is, for me, it would broaden the mandate of even faith. Because I think sometimes people think as Christians, all I'm trying to fight for is whether I deal with the moral issues. No, that's one issue. Actually, the broader issues is
That's one
about,
issue.
if you think about the 10 Commandments, the dignity of
Yeah,
human beings, property rights. Human rights come from the cross. You can't say you have human rights without the cross. You don't. I can tell you that categorically.
that's
And I
right.
can have a
That's
whole
right.
discussion about that on another day. But the second
Mm,
issue I'd like to really look at is that I think it talks about the right to education. I'm passionate about education. It says the state will take progressive means to make sure that education is afforded to all citizens. In preferably there, and then it talks about progression, practicable and reasonable means to do that.
okay.
To not educate your children is to rob your future. I would
Is to rob your
simplify that
feelings.
provision, make it so that education must be readily available for all citizens and no cost can be prohibitive. It must be in the constitution. It's a right. And then the other sections of the constitution are actually quite, the last thing I'd say, which might actually be the bit, is that the constitution makes provision for 9 provinces. I actually think you should scrap provinces. I think we should focus on cities. The reason for
All
that is
right.
that I think I think to me provinces bring us back to a space where we are, with respect. Why should we have still KwaZulu Natal, and that must be a province for the Zulus? Why? Yeah, yes, I know no one can stop me from living in KZN, but we all know in the character and the feature of KwaZulu Natal is that it's Zulu, that the Eastern Cape is Xhosa, that the Northwest ke Abatswana, Limpopo ke Tshivenda, Mpumalanga is Swati. Isn't that another form of Bantustan? And these
It
are
is.
layers of government that are not contributing
It is.
anything. Provinces are a layer of bureaucracy. So I'm saying,
Mm,
let's have a national government in cities. We will find our way. Because then we'll save money, have less politicians, less confusion, direct democracy. Say, if you want a school, the city must do that. If you want police, the city must be able to partner with, if you are in Swan, you must have the Tswane
that's right.
police. The SAPS mustn't be the national police. They must be the Tswane police department, because when you merge those two things, then you have a powerful force that's got intelligence lower down the ground, and everything is decentralized. I think once you add provinces, you just distance government. And I can't sit here today and say the cost weighs out to the benefits. So those are some of the constitutional things
Hey,
I'd just.
all great stuff. Great stuff. And let me ask this, Honorable, because as we're touching, especially at the amendments of the Constitution, meaning to the point of land expropriation and so forth. I'm a product, of kings, and my blood runs such. And I've realized that at times there are people who talk about things that they don't know, but because of they've got a platform to talk about. I think we should purport a way in bringing an understanding, especially when it comes to making sure that we understand each other when it comes to land. Because remember, land issue. You had your chiefs, you had your kings and your queens. Let me just put it that way, just plain. Whom we wouldn't say because of democracy we scrap them. In how it has happened through integration, we never saw them coming anyway. They were just meaning a house was being built after some time, just at the backyard of your parliament, and muted and not ineffective, and so forth, and that has caused confusion in our nation. Where a nation like South Africa, where yes, we wouldn't condone any other, kind of ill practices that could have been done, then whether by chieftaincy or by any kingdom, but we wouldn't also write that off because it's our, not only we could say, we can't say it's our culture or it's our history that needs to be revisited. So when you touch land expropriation without understanding the national, moreover of the Land Act of 1913, or maybe touching based on uh, meaning land expropriation in the absence of understanding the amendments and that were done in 1970 that speaks meaning private property. So now in that regard, then you're fighting a battle out of the court, and then we are leading people into taking on land, and you they end up also we also end up building another Alexander, which is a misfortune, where our people are not structured, well land, and there's no smart, in location structure or town planning, if I can put it that way, and that leads us to the same, I would say, South Africa that we were. As you said, you spoke Bantustan in regard to the 9 provinces where we were divided based on our languages. And even today, we're still proud, of KwaZulu Natal, meaning Limpopo. I'm from Mpumalanga. We're still proud even today. But now I see future because, and that is the way we are anchoring, the way I see the leadership coming, we would be able to break those demarcations and make an assurance that we bring people together. But now we understand that the wealth of the people, the economics of the people relies on land, and now what better way, or moreover in terms of what you have as a modus operandi that speaks, section 25, because as I'm talking now, it's in the head, it's in it's been passed through. So people are putting their comments and so forth, but we know what could happen. But I'm asking from yourself, as when we talk one South Africa movement, on my side, I'm giving you my point of view. I believe in land restitution. That's me. I believe in land diplomacy. I don't wanna, go the route of how it was taken, but I wanna go the route of how can we, as we establish a South Africa, that is non-racial, to make sure that they come to the inclusivity, of the economy, of the secular economy, that even a lame, ordinary man, I come from the streets, I can also form to be part. So, what could be your take on that? Maybe we can just pass on it
Yeah,
quickly because I want to ask the last question on that.
look, land is an important justice question, you know. Unless we really attend to the question in a meaningful manner, there should be no peace. I say there should be no. Because you are correct, you can't be creating more Alexanders, you can't be creating all of that. What I think the amendment ought to be in the Constitution should not be expropriation without compensation. But what it should rather say is that it put at the center of the arbitration of the issue to capacitate a judicial ruling on compensation.
Okay.
Now, the reason I say that is because if you leave it political, which is where this process is going to go, then you are at the mercy of men to decide who is the landowner or not. And worse, you are at the mercy of politicians. And so now I say, Kibakwa Maimane, we have decided as a clan, we want the land around Sun City because of Rabakwena, or that is our heritage. And I get politically powerful, it's possible for me to go demand that without going to a legal route, which then your systems in the country stop working. So whilst I think we are correct to abandon willing buyer, willing seller, I think we are correct to do that. What I do think we ought to do is to say, if then I want to play a land restitution and a claim, I'm able to go to a court and say, look, we want the land around Sun City because that's where our ancestors come from, etc. Given the appropriate evidence, etc., the court can then be able to go on valuation. We think compensation must be 100 rands. See, then you have secured private property, because I can't depart from the principle that says land, whether the private property bit is to a chiefdom or not, it still is property. Because the definition of property is not just land, it speaks to intellectual property, other things. So we must be able to say, can we be able to identify the property ownership? Because if we don't do that, then we create a free for all, which in that instance, which land should I now come in and say, even in your house, I can be able to say, no, but I have claim here. So it becomes complicated. So what I'm trying to say is, let's keep the legal tenants, let's capacitate the courts. Compensation does not need to be at market value. It can be at justice value, which says this land was accrued in this manner. Here's a legitimate claim. The courts have ruled to say the compensation must be 100 rand. But then the courts are determining that, having heard the argument, so that all of us have got legal claim. Because today, I restitute land back to you, you then have it. And then 2 years, 10 years later, another generation comes up and says, hey, those people, Bararopile, and they took our land. Now you don't have a legal process upon which you can keep following that process over and over again. And then also, we must be able to know how often has this land passed hands so that it can accrue value. You see, so that you can be able to say, but this land 15 years ago was worth 100 rands, now it's worth 100 million. So if you want compensation, the courts adjudicate it in that manner. So otherwise, you'll end up in a situation that creates a degree of anarchy. And I would urge that the amendment must speak to how the courts can be capacitated to determine value
Yes,
and
yes.
justice value.
Justice value. I heard
So
you.
that would be the
I
right
heard you
outcome.
mouthful. Now you are being heard mouthful, honorable. And I'm just having in my heart right now, because we have seen it. People are seeing it on TV. We are receiving it, meaning, I would say, meaning firsthand, to know where the IEC is at, pertaining the local and the government elections. And I mean, we have seen parties coming on board saying, no, how about we let it pass because of the meaning the situation that we are in of of the amid COVID-19, and also suggesting that we should have our elections in 2022. So which I believe that constitutionally, if people are out of place and it couldn't happen, but now also it wouldn't happen in August, it might happen in November, or it might happen in October, it might happen, but it might not be in August. So now I want to ask you, based on that, because we're preparing for 2021 local government elections, how important is that to us? Because I thank you that you have given us even more time. We can talk about this. Just a few minutes of your time, if you can take that. How important are meaning local government elections in this nation?
Local government is the most important sphere of government. You know, if a city collapses, a lot other things go quickly.
Okay.
So, for example, if sewage doesn't work, the ecosystem of the people doesn't work. If
That's
there's no
right.
water, cities reticulate water, citizens are
Mm,
in trouble. If electricity is not reticulated, so cities are at the forefront of people day-to-day living. If you get in your car
mm,
now and drive in the road and there are potholes and the road is messed up, that's a competence of the city.
mm,
Indigent, poor
mm.
people are dependent on what cities do. So cities are at the forefront of it all. So I can't underscore the importance of cities. And sometimes we ignore them. The people of Makana today don't have water. In Ekua, they don't have water. So these are problems. So what I would urge is that we have to have elections this year. COVID of no COVID. America
Yeah,
went to go vote. 350 million people cast their votes
yeah,
in the midst of COVID.
yeah.
Rona
In the midst of COVID.
what's our problem?
That's
Malawi voted.
now,
Malawi voted.
that's right. That's right.
We must vote. And so I think elections must proceed this year. Whether we like it or not, they must carry on. We've got to find the best way of doing it. We must find the way of best of registering people. And I hope one day in our lifetime we'll have digital voting so that actually people can make it easier for them to vote digitally. I think that's possible, and we
Touching
can
on
do it.
that, yeah, touching on that.
So that's what I'm longing for.
Yeah, touching on that, Honorable, the digital, because I have a couple of political parties who have been actually advocating for that. The forward, if I'm not if I'm right, forward for meaning service delivery and others and yourself. And when I came on board, I also had to send even to IEC to say this is what we could do because. We have identified and we have a company that has the software. And we were talking based on that to say we need to go digital, we need to go electronic, we need to, I mean, we are in a digital space, the Internet of Things. So why do we still have to
Yeah,
vote that way? Is it maybe an opportune time for, meaning the alleging of rigging or something? Because I believe that, if we could go that route, many things could change in South Africa, and I think you could agree with me on that digital space.
yeah, absolutely. And I think we can also attract more young people for them to feel like
Yeah.
voting is easier and it's possible.
Oh,
I mean, look,
wow.
you know, digital systems have their own vulnerabilities. So I'm not saying it's perfect, but all I know is that if it was digital, we could vote. I mean, in COVID, you and I are here having this interview here on a platform that I've only used twice. I wouldn't do that unless we've had to be forced to do it. Now, like
Absolutely.
invention is the mother, necessity is the motherhood of all invention. Now
Invention. Yeah,
we
that's
are
right.
in COVID. We need to vote differently. Let's invent something. Let's be innovative. The software is there. You are correct. Blockchain technology is available. Let's get people voting.
Now, in closure, honor my money. You have honored us tonight in South Africa in general. In closure, here's the church. And it looks like the church is really, really, really coming to life. The church, yes, participated. We know, how it was represented for the past 20 something years, and we believe that something can be done. And when we talk the church, we're not meaning talking, in a way of segregating other communities, but we say here are the people that have been over a silent majority, and there is an awakening now whereby we grew up in a space where we were told no politics are evil in China. And we grew up in a space where business was evil, especially in the church space. But now you see there's a great number coming forth and with excitement to make sure that they want to come on board and make sure that they break barriers and church must open and so forth. So now what could be your message as one South Africa movement? Because I know your heart is there for the church when you talk faith and to make sure that they are also catered meaning as a community? What could it be? If I can give you a minute
I
on that,
want,
because I'm just gonna close with that. Yeah.
yeah, I want to raise my hands and say, yes, finally, because we must not. Jesus has a vision for the church. We need to have a
That's
vision
right.
for the kingdom. Those are two different
That's
things.
right.
And
Okay.
so to me, I'm excited that suddenly the church is awakening to saying, let the sons of God be revealed in politics, be revealed in education, be revealed in the
Mm,
kingdom, because all of
mm.
creation is yearning for that. So now,
That's
so
right.
now it's time. I'm glad we're gonna stop having this apartheid like church that simply says to the government, yes and amen. Now we have a church that says, hey, politicians can't tell us. Now we can stand
Yeah.
up together and say, look here, the sons of God are being revealed in because in communities, it's been revealed. So to me, suddenly our Josephs in the church can be awakened, our Davids can be awakened. Suddenly the vision isn't
That's right.
just to gather, because we've had to answer the question, what would happen if we don't gather? Now we gather to
What can
spread,
happen?
we gather to influence, we gather to change society. To me, I'm like, yes, finally, if it took COVID to do it, then it was worth it, man. I hope we must
Was
do it
right.
more, because when we do it more, we can change. We can suddenly one day people now can wake up and say, "Oh, if that is the change." For me, I actually wrote an open letter to the president. I said, had it not been for an alive church during apartheid, I wouldn't have been able to get an education that I was able to get, because the Catholics felt that
Agreed. Agreed.
it's necessary
Agreed.
for black children to get an education in Soweto. If it wasn't
Agreed.
for the Anglicans, they wouldn't have built the
Agreed
hospitals where
upon.
my last daughter was born. If
Ah.
today
Mm.
can it be sent for even for the evangelicals or whoever, we can finally get a church that is alive to what is going on in cities. Imagine if church buildings become centers for examinations for children so that they can social distance. Imagine if churches with internet and air conditioning are places where small businesses can come and start and do their thing. Hey, suddenly the church is not just a place of gathering, it's to gather to spread. It's really an embassy for the kingdom. People come and get their. Hey, now you see. So to me, if it took COVID, it was worth it.
It was worth it. Amen. Hallelujah. That's what I say all the time. To say power was given to the people. They are killing each other. They want to take power from one another. Councillors are killing one another for positions. Politicians are fighting one another. But we are saying, let power be given back to God. Then we stood and we said, Amen. Hallelujah. So I want to shout and say, Hallelujah. Because, it's no longer
Thank
popular today to talk God. It's no longer popular to say hallelujah when we talk politics. But I want to thank you, Honorable, and I believe that this won't be your last, and this is just the beginning as we are purporting and over building going forward. It's a road. We are beginning. You have charged up our vehicle, and I believe that we'll get where we're supposed to be. And now, in this hour, when you touch church, I know where they are. They are even now vibrating in prayers, and there's a more of a vibrance in praying in tongues. And we want to say to even all of our grannies and all our aunties, not to worry, not to worry. All is intact. Nobody can fight God and win the battle. So we are not
Amen.
afraid, and we are not naive. We know what's going on. No one will fight God and come out meaning triumph. No man, no government can even do that. So now we're standing hopeful, and we are believing that the church people will come out in their numbers. And in registering, we're going to. I love what you said the other day. If I have to close this way, that you said we're going to even register them, and in communities. We go in communities and we register the people
Amen.
so that our people in the church are actually now eligible. There's eligibility, and they know that on the day to vote, they can go out and vote for whom, and also for movements that they want to vote for, so that we promote, meaning canon laws, meaning and promote what God has actually given in our time. Thank you so much, Honorable Mmusi Maimane. What
Thank
a
you.
breeze,
Thank you.
what
Thank you.
a fresh, yes, what a kind of a fresh air that you have just poured and you brought also in our studio. Thank you so much. And I want to just extend to you to say, may God, and meaning
Thank you.
also meaning reach out and stretch out his hand upon you, cover you and
Mm,
bless you. Because all this time you've been speaking like an apostle, and I had you talking cities. I said, this man is talking like an apostle because it's them that understand that we are called for cities. And when we come into cities, the cities will rejoice. So thank you so much with your family, your lovely wife, and we are speaking divine covering, and moreover in the process,
mm.
and may God keep you for South Africa, may God keep you for Africa and the entire global community. And for that note, I want to say Kairos, meaning has given you the final word from our Honorable Mmusi Maimane. And I want to just say to all of you, thanks so much for coming on board. Thank you, Honorable. Let me just let you
God
be
bless.
because I know you've got
Thank you.
appointments, especially now you're in a conference. Thank you, and may God bless you and bless you. So I bless you. This is a bishopric anointing. I bless you
Thank
with an
you.
apostolic grace. May you be blessed in the coming elections. May God do as you will. We need men like you in the parliament. We need men who can speak the heart of God and begin to now bring our nation together. One South Africa. Can South Africa be born in one day? Yes, I agree. And thank you so much,
Yes.
Honorable Maimani, and may God
Amen.
bless you. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming through. Thank you, my
God
leader.
bless you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
God
Bye
bless
bye.
you. God bless you, sir. What a time we had in such a space of time, and moreover, in the presence of God. These are the politics that we're talking about, and I believe that these are the kind of politics that we are going to have in our nation, and we are hopeful, we're praying for, and we are standing, we are eagerly standing, we are hopeful to see it working. So now, whether you're working there, whether the other is working here or there, I want to tell you one thing. Never ever think that you are working more than others. Never ever think that you are actually called moreover than others. I want us to realize that the simplest of people that we don't even recognize in our cities, they are the true actually government, and they are the true leadership that God will emerge in our time for the work of the kingdom. And for that reason, I want to say I am confident in prayer, sitting with the leadership all over in a different way, in a different dimension. And I believe that now this kind of information is definitely going to actually now yield a fruit. And we will see fruition. The next coming election, the church will stand out stronger. Business will support the church. We'll have as many people that understand that this ancient call is to be finally is to be executed by us, myself, and you at home. And as I always say, I'm standing in the studios to say, now you are invited cordially to form part with us and hold hands with us in your communities, in your wards, everywhere where you are. If you are a leader, make an assurance and make sure that you come back to us, and therefore you absolutely tell us where you are from and where you're leading and which community you are leading, and we will come there and endorse you for the kingdom so that we continue doing the work that we are doing. So now leave out your details and just begin to write down and call us and do what you have to do on www.ecoforumova.org.za. And when you get us there, and you will understand that now our heart is for the people, our heart is for this nation. I want to thank Honorable Maimani and thank you all that have come through. Let's meet again on the next Thursday. It's a presidential talk, and may God bless you. You don't know which leader is coming. You might not know which president is coming. We might bring Trump even also to be part of this conversation. Now, I want to thank God for you, and may God bless you. May God bless South Africa. May God bless Africa and the world, and bless you. Shalom.